Professor Jeff Stein to talk about something that relates to our great state of Iowa. We call it the Iowa Almanac, and many people are talking award shows. The season is going hot, Professor, as the Golden Globe nominations were announced live earlier this morning. But we're talking about another big accomplishment that were given to an Iowan. What are we talking about?
Well, good morning to you both. Congratulations on your Golden Globe nomination.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you heard that. Okay, good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So very, very well done on your part. Let's talk about a young man whose father was worried about him. The young man, Dominic Felix Amici. His father was worried that the Kenosha, Wisconsin boy might fall in with the wrong elements. Kenosha, apparently a rough town at the time, so the Italian immigrant saloon keeper, the father, sent his then 11-year-old son to live in the state of Iowa. This was in 1919. Young Dom Amici attended St. Birchman's Boys Academy in Marion, where he was an 8th grader and for the first time tried acting. He found it to his liking. He later attended what is now Loras College in Dubuque. The yearbook described him at the time as one of the most promising actors at the school. That was in the 1920s, and he was very solidly by that point an Iowan. By the early 1930s, actors were making a living performing in radio dramas, and Chicago, as we've discussed here before, was one of the nation's broadcasting centers at the time. Amici's rich baritone voice put him in demand, and it wasn't long before he parlayed his radio career into a Hollywood movie career. By this time, he was not Dominic Amici, he was Don Amici. He made his movie debut in 1936, playing dual roles in the movie Sins of Man. His classic portrayal of Alexander Graham Bell in 1939 won him rave reviews, as did the 1943 comedy Heaven Can Wait. He was part of radio's famous quarrelsome couple, the Bickersons, and he starred on Broadway as well. Don Amici turned to directing in the 1960s and 1970s, but he made his return to the movie screen in 1983's movie Trading Places. Remember the Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd movie? He was one. Don Amici was one of the scheming older brothers in that.
Yeah, and they had all that going on for $1. The whole scheme going on for a bet of $1.
Well, it's all about the sport, isn't it?
Yes.
As opposed to the money. And if you didn't notice his work in that movie, he was discovered by a whole new generation for his Oscar-winning performance in the 1985 film Cocoon. Don Amici always considered Iowa his home base, marrying a woman from Dubuque, and they even raised their 6 children there part-time, children who wound up staying and working and living in the state of Iowa. For 7 decades, Don Amici found fame in show business, appearing regularly in major films until his death from prostate cancer on this date in 1993. Hard to believe he's been gone 25 years today.
Yeah, what a great actor.
Unbelievable actor, and that's why we are talking about him this morning. Do you have a favorite movie of his, Professor, that you can think of, that you naturally go to?
Well, I love the Alexander Graham Bell movie because he became so synonymous with that character. It actually became a bit of a problem. And there were people who started referring to the telephone as the Amici.
Oh, really?
This literally was part of pop culture at the time. But what I really noticed, you asked Jackie about movies, but I'm really rediscovering his radio career.
There you go.
And he was the host of the Chase and Sanborn Hour. Chase and Sanborn, a famous coffee company, and that's the show that gave us Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Wow.
So here's Don Amici hosting this 1-hour show, and you've got Bergen and McCarthy, W.C. Fields, all of these other entertainers, and the glue that held it together was Don Amici. Just some great classic stuff. That was still in the 1930s into the 1940s.
Yeah, we knew you were talking about Don Amici, and I totally forgot about Heaven Can Wait. It actually was off the radar here, but again, some great flicks.
Yeah.
So if people want to go back and look at some of the things we talked about today and remind them of some of the movies that you mentioned in your broadcast today, how can they go about doing so?
iowaalmanac.com. That has this story and all the ones we've talked about. Also, Twitter and Instagram at Iowa Almanac, but online, iowaalmanac.com.
All right. Thank you, sir. And you stay warm, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.
We'll build a fire in the corner right here.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor.
That works. All right.